Hey guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Matt's going to be teaching you a really cool take on Clocks by Coldplay. Now, this arrangement is going to be perfect for the seasoned beginner. So this is kind of a abridged version of the tune. The actual song has a lot of repetition where the verse is repeated multiple times and that piano riff is repeated multiple times. So we kind of squashed it down a little bit to make it a more bite-sized chunk, so to speak. But all the parts should be there, and this is just going to be a really good one for those of you who are, I would say, transitioning to the intermediate finger style level. So if you're kind of at that turning point of beginner to intermediate player, this is going to be a good challenge for you. Now, with that said, let's take a step back. Let's talk a little bit about this lesson. So in this video, Matt's going to be teaching you the entire arrangement. But if you want to get the tabs to print off and keep for your records, that is going to be available at this link right here. Or you can go to the site rockclass101.com, do a search for clocks. Now, also on that page will be the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer. Now, this is a great feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tabs scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. Alright guys, so at this point I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Matt to teach you how to play this. Don't forget to grab the high G ukulele, and I'll catch you at the end of the video.
Hello! In today's video we're going to learn a solo high G ukulele arrangement of the song Clocks. This is a perfect song for anybody who's looking for more melodic and finger picking styles. So let's go ahead and dive in with the first part, which is the most iconic part of the song, the piano riff. I'm going to move the camera down, and we're going to start with this first measure. To play this, we're going to play a D chord. Go and take the index finger, barred across the 2nd fret, take the pinky finger, add it on the 5th fret of the A string. Now, I'm going to use 3 finger picking for this. I'm going to put my thumb on my G string, my index on my E string, and my middle finger on my A string. I'm going to pluck the A first, then the G, then the E, then the A, then the G, then the E, then the A, then the G again. So you see it's the same picking pattern going A, G, E, A, G, E, A, G. Kind of neat, right? And in time, this should sound something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going to the second measure, we're going to keep this index finger here on the G string, but take it off the other strings. So you see how I kind of bring that bar off. And then I'm going to take this pinky off and use the ring finger to come in on the 3rd fret of the A string. So this is creating this A minor chord shape. And I'm going to play this with my middle finger on the A string, and then the G string, and then the E string. So the same picking pattern we did before, except it's on the A minor chord now. And I do that A, G, E, A, G to finish it off. So it's the same exact picking pattern that we did before, just played now with this A minor chord instead. And in time, this should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. As we go on to the third measure now, it's exactly the same as the second measure. We're still holding this A minor chord. We're still using our 3 finger picking. We're still going to go A, G, E, A, G, E, A, G. In time, 2 and 3 and 4 and. And finally, we go to our last chord here, which is this little E minor chord. It's kind of modified E minor because we're not going to play the C string. We just take our middle finger, add it here on the 2nd fret of the A string, and that's it. We're then going to pluck the same picking pattern we've been doing, A string, G string, E string, A string, G string, E string, A string, and the G string. So it's the same pattern, just now on this. And in time, that's going to sound like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And at this point, it also has a repeat marker. And this is going to play this whole 4-bar phrase twice in a row. So that you can hear it, here's what the 4 different measures sound like when you combine them all. And I'm going to do the repeat as well. This is the iconic piano riff, so really important to get the practice with this part. It should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Pretty cool, right? Now, one little tip that I have for this section is to try to use something that I like to call predictive fretting. And what that means is kind of trying to make sure that you're fretting the next part when you can, even a little bit early. For instance, when you're going from the D to the A minor, you'll notice that I start twisting my hand this way, getting that ring finger in, so that when the pinky comes off, the ring is there, and then this index kind of comes off to expose that E string. So you see that movement. And then the same sort of deal here with the E minor. I'm going to actually place this finger on before I need it. And then I take away the ring finger. And then I have to make sure I take away that G. And if you don't, you might accidentally play that note, which is easy to do, but you just want to make sure you get comfortable taking it off. Pretty cool, right? Most iconic part of the song, and definitely the most important part to play well. From here, though, we go on to verse 1. So this is where the vocal melody is going to start, and I like to use what's called melodic picking for this. So we just were using the 3-finger picking technique. Now I'm going to use my thumb to strum through everything here on measures 5 through 8 for verse 1. I'm going to start with that same D chord we played before, 2, 2, 2, 5. I'm going to strum through all 4 strings. And then I'm going to play the 5 on the A 2 more times. And then I'm going to play it one more time, but when I play it this time, I'm going to take my index off the bar, because then for the last note of this measure, I'm going to play the 2 with the index here alone. You might think, well, why not just play it like this, right? And there is a reason, I'll show you in just a moment, but we want to take off the finger, get the index to just the 2 on the A string by itself. So measure 5 looks something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And the reason we do that is the next measure here, we're going to go to an A minor chord, but maybe a little bit different than one that you usually play. We're going to move that index finger up 1 fret to the 3 on the A string, add our ring finger on the 5 of the E, and our middle finger here on the 4 of the C. I'm going to strum through my C, E, and A strings with the thumb. And then I'm going to take this index, slide it down to 2, and then take it off to play open on the A. And then 3 notes of filler at the end of this measure. I'm going to play my 4 on the C, my 5 on the E, and 4 on the C again. And in time, that sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And so that you can hear the pair of these 2 measures, 5 and 6, so that you can see that movement, should look something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into the 7th measure, we're going to hold this shape here, reapply the index finger to the 3rd fret of the A string, strum through those 3 strings again, C, E, and A. Then we're going to play the 3 on the A 3 times, and then open on the A. Pretty straightforward measure. In time, 7 should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then going on to measure 8, we're going to play an E minor 7. To do this, we're going to basically move all sorts of stuff. Index goes to 2 on the C, middle here to 2 on the A, leaving the G and E strings open. Strum through all 4 strings. Then take the middle finger off. Then play the open G and the open G again. So 8 in time is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And the pair of these measures, 7 and 8, should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. At this point, it has a repeat, so we're going to play this whole verse twice through so that you can get an idea of what that sounds like. Here's 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 5, 6, 7, 8 again for that repeat. Should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And at this point, we then go on to melody C. And here's what's neat. Melody C, you already know. It is the piano riff. It's the exact same thing that we played for measures 1 through 4. And this time, we're not going to repeat it. So we just play those 4 measures as written. So 9 goes with the D chord. 10 is the A minor. 11 the A minor. And 12 the E minor. Pretty neat, right? So in time, 9, 10, 11, and 12 should sound something like this for our melody C, which is just the repeat of the piano riff. 2 and 3 and 4 and. From this point, we go on to the bridge, and the bridge is a little bit different. I think it's a little bit more challenging than some of the other parts of the song. So what we're going to do to start this is, well, we just did our 3-finger picking with the piano riff, right? So we went from the melodic picking in the verse to the picking here on the piano riff. Well, I'm going to go back to our melodic picking here for the bridge section. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this F add 9, 0, 0, 1, 0, just the index finger here on the first fret of the E string. I'm going to strum through the C, E, and A together. And then I'm going to play G, C, E. And then I'm going to move this index finger all the way up to 8 on the E string, pluck that. And as I do that, I actually like to kind of collapse it as a bar, because this next chord, this new F add 9, is going to take the middle finger, add it here on the 9th fret of the C string, and the ring finger here on the 10th fret of the A string. And then we're going to strum through those 3 strings. So what we need to do is get comfortable kind of sliding it up to that position, right? And that's tricky to do, but it can help to get comfortable with 1 sliding to 8. Kind of look ahead. It's like, okay, we're going from this. See, I'm looking towards the 8th fret, and that way I can visualize the finger before I do it. If you try to track the finger the whole way along, sometimes that makes it harder to do. Instead, look towards 8, then slide to that position. And that can help make it a lot easier to play. And so this measure looks something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into the next measure here on 14, we're going to be holding this shape. We're going to pluck the C, E, and then A. And then we're going to play 8 on the A string followed by 7 on the A string. Now you can just use your index finger here on 8 and then index finger here on 7. Totally fine. So in time, this measure sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And the 2 measures together here at 13 and 14 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then as we go on now to measure 15, all that we need to do is we can just take this finger and be sliding it all over the place. So we move down to 0, 0, 0, 5 with our index finger. And then we're going to move it down to 3. And then you can use your ring finger or you can use your index. Really, there's no wrong finger here just because we're sliding up and down. I like to use the ring finger generally though, just to play the 5 on the A. And then do a slide to 7 on the A. If you're more comfortable doing that slide with your index, totally fine. The most important thing is to get a good slide sound. Quick tip for the slide, increase the pressure ever so slightly and try to slide into the fret wire. That can really help. So as you squeeze a little bit tighter, kind of stops you on the wire and it helps generate a little bit more sound. And then I'm going to play 0 on the C and then 0 on the G to finish that measure. So measure 15 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into the 16th measure, we play this wonderful G6. Just take your index finger, bar it across the C, E, and A strings right here. And then we're going to play through all 3 of those strings. And then we're going to play C, E, and A to finish this part. So in time, 16 sounds like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And 15 and 16 as a little pair sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And at this point, it does a repeat marker. So what this means is we're going to play that bridge section, measures 13, 14, 15, and 16, twice all the way through. So that you can get a good idea of that, this is what it sounds like going all the way through in time. Should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Again. Beautiful bridge section. And what's cool is from here we go on to the E melody, which is the same thing we've done. It's that same piano riff, the same thing that we played on measure 1 and on measure 9. No difference whatsoever. 17, 18, 19, and 20. Exactly the same as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 9, 10, 11, 12. So in time, that riff should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Isn't repetition awesome? And then from this point, we go on to the ending, which is another piano riff, but it's a variation on it. And this is quite challenging. The way that we're going to play this is way up on the fretboard, and we're going to be utilizing what's called a double bar here. We're still going to stick with our finger picking that we've been using with all the piano riff parts. And this first chord is going to be the same as we're going to hold this chord the whole time. And we're calling it a D add 11 here because of the notes we're playing. But what it is it's 11, 11, 10, 10. So the way we play this is take your index finger, bar it across the 10th fret of the E and the A strings and get a really nice steep angle here. And then take your middle finger and do a bar on the G and the C strings on the 11th fret. But you have to make sure that you're not touching your E and A strings with it. And that's what makes this so hard, is you have to get the clearance. And so it can help to kind of move that finger up a bit to make sure that you're not hitting those two strings. So really tricky chord. It really cramps the fingers, but it's a really good one to know how to play because we're going to use it in a lot of different things. This is just one of the many instances you'll use this chord. But once you're holding that and comfortable with it, we're going to play 10 on the A, 11 on the G, and 10 on the E. You'll notice it's the same picking pattern that we did before. It's exactly the same pattern. It goes A, G, E, A, G, E, A, G. Pretty cool, right? So measure 21 in time sounds like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into the next chord, a little bit different. We still hold this, but we're going to take our ring finger. We're going to add it here on 12 of the C string, okay? And then with that, we're going to play A, G, C. So it's a little bit different now. Instead of playing the E string like we have to this point, we play the C string. And we're going to do that again, A, G, C, and then we'll play an A, G to finish it. So 22 in time is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then as we go on to measure 23, it's the same thing. We're going to play the exact same thing as we did 22. So in time, that sounds like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then on measure 24, we take this ring finger off, hold back to this, and we're going to play A, G, then C, which is there at 11 with that double bar, right? And we do that again. A, G, C, and then A, G. And so 24 in time is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then at this point, it repeats and it plays it all the way through twice. Now, before I show you that, I just want to show you the very last measure here on 25, because all that it is this chord that you're playing, this 10 on the E, you play as the very last note after you're done picking it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually play now measures 21, 22, 23, 24, do the repeat, 21, 22, 23, 24, and then play 25 to finish the song. And it should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Pretty neat, right? It's easy to make little mistakes with this because these fingers can cramp up super easily as you're going through, and you're switching between the G and the E strings and the C strings. It can be a mess, but as long as you practice it nice and slowly, you'll get it. I'm going to bring the camera back up to me because that finishes this abridged arrangement. And I want to talk about that just for a moment. This is an abridged arrangement. This is a long song. There's a lot of different parts and variations to the parts. We tried to make it kind of distilled down to something approachable, but still substantial. And so if you are playing the song and you want to add length, you can repeat any of these sections in any different orders to fit what you like. And if you want to be more accurate to the song, you can try to listen to what they're doing and manufacture these parts in the way that you want to play them through. It's a beautiful melody. It's a lot of fun to play on the high G ukulele. It works really well for a lot of like that campanella effect where you get multiple strings ringing out together like that. I mean, how pretty does that sound, right? So it's just a beautiful sound. As always, though, if you have any questions as you've been working through this, leave them down in the comments below, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time on the next lesson here on Rock Class 101. Thanks so much.
All right, guys, so this week's ukulele lesson was a lot of fun. This is a cool tune that I think really adapted well to the ukulele. Now, before we wrap up, I did want to give you a friendly reminder that if you wanted to get the tabs to print off and keep for your records, that was available at this link right here. Or you can go to the site rockclass101.com, do a search for clocks. Now, also on that page was the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer, so you can literally hit play, watch that tab scroll across in real time, highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed learning this tune, and we'll catch you in the next lesson. Take care.